Hello! I want to make a video about a hero that has been extremely impactful in Guild War offense for me, and yeah, you guessed it right. Uh, it's it's Emily. I don't own Lady, so Emily has been extremely important for me, and if you own the hero, you should be using her on offense. Um, Her main, I mean, she has a few things going for her, but one of the main reasons is this. Um, there are only two heroes in the game that give penetration resistance to allies, like on a regular basis. It's Blue Diane, but that's with a buff, and it's Emily with a passive. Now, there are other abilities that give you penetration resistance for a shorter period of time, but these two are the most reliable ones. And yeah, this is extremely strong. I will show in a moment why, but basically this allows you to hit things on offense that you generally wouldn't be able to. She also has this small little effect here, increases combat readiness by 10%. It means she can cycle and be on a full tank build and still take turns. Incredible, incredible stuff. Basically, a must-have unit for Guild War. For Arena RT, I'm not sure, but definitely here. Now, I said she has a few things going for her. Outside of being having one of the stronger passives in the game, the other being ladies probably, she also does injury, and that's extremely important because a lot of the heroes you'll be fighting, or one of the main ones being Genesis Raz, is an HP scaling damage dealer that ignores defense. So injury will reduce the damage further and further. It also gives your team inevitability, because if you play a defensive unit like Empyrean Illinev, you're going for the long fight usually. And that means that the injury will add up and it will reach a point where you can win, where otherwise your damage would not be enough to kill the enemy team. And now the injury is important because of her S1, which on Soulburn gives increased damage based on the injury dealt. So basically, you do this as 20% injury, well, maybe not exactly, but let's say 20% of their full health. Then you do this twice, that's 40%, and then the fifth one, you give max pop damage, and then you're back to a full cycle. Now, another great thing is she has a full cleanse and Indomitable on her S3, which is undispellable buff for effect resistant defense. Incredible stat value on this unit. Now, to see why this is such a strong ability, we need to look at what units penetrate resistance. But before that, basically the game has a few damage mitigation mechanics. Uh, Defense is the main one. All heroes have defense, right? So it's everywhere. The other one is damage reduction, and another one is damage share. These are basically the three damage mitigation mechanics in the game. You have damage limits and some other stuff, but these are mostly the main ones. You also have mitigation for fixed damage and stuff. And for damage reduction and damage share, they are usually limited to an amount. So damage reduction is usually up to 30%, and damage share is usually up to 30%. Well, we won't talk about you know, the elephant in the room. Uh, but yeah, generally, the other two effects are limited, where this depends on defense, and you can build more defense. So this is kind of an ability that scales your damage reduction, damage mitigation. And so if we look at how many heroes have damage penetration, and there are different levels, the most impactful ones are ones that have full penetration, so 100%. The biggest offender is definitely going to be Genesis Ras. Full penetration. Guild War even stronger. He does more damage to 3 units. So basically, if you see a Genesis Res, Emily is almost a must-have, especially when there is a Nurse Yulha. I mean, this is what you'll most likely see when you're playing offense. Another hero that she's very good into is Yulha. Um, Something I didn't even realize, but her S3 is full penetration. So if you're scared of Yulha killing you, you can just bring Emily. Again, if you notice, both of these units are HP scaling, so the injury will wear them down and, bring that inevitability. Another unit she can be good at, Dragon Bride Senya. She's not as common, but she can be seen. Same reasons, HP scaling, so reduce her damage from HP, uh, from injury, sorry, and she penetrates defense fully, so less scary. Um, there's some other units. I can't think of any other that is full penetration right now. I guess Commander Pavel, but it's not something in Last Rider Crowd. But when you're playing offense, you won't see these units on defense. She also somewhat mitigates Renek S3 at least, the initial damage. Um, Also Mort, he has penetration to the highest health hero, and he is seen on defense for sure. And the others, I would say you won't really see on defense. But if you do, Hecate, sure, she has full penetration. But again, on defense, not something you will see. The most oppressive hero in game, probably Genesis Ras. Also, she does mitigate a little bit of damage from Frieren, because she does penetrate on S3, but it's only 50%. So mainly Genesis Ras, Dragon Bride Senya, Yulha, but Genesis Ras is everywhere. And you can find a use for her in other cases for some of these units. So again, this passive, extremely powerful. And when you see Genesis Ras, just bring her. Right. So let's look at some builds for her. It really depends on the team composition and what you're doing. But you can put her on just fast damage build, right? Um, this is probably a little bit low on HP, but it's just the stats I had lying around. You basically ignore other stats and you just go damage symbol if you're playing into Setskas and stuff, as she does injure her down, reducing her damage. Some other builds you can use. Now let me just take this one. Yep. Right, you can put her on just protection set Aureus and some ER. I probably want immunity. Yeah, I didn't put immunity here, but you might want immunity if you're playing against Genesis Ras in some use cases. I'm focusing more on Guild War, as you can generally manipulate who Genesis Ras goes into if you have a dark unit to bait the element. But this can be a good build. I would not recommend Aureus against Norse Yulha and Genesis Ras. That's usually what can lose you the game, what can kill your Emily. As just there's too much damage from that team. So that's the one team you wouldn't bring Aureus. But you can bring it into normal Genesis Ras. Another build we can do is Rise of a Monarch and Fastish some ER, right? So this is just a build that you have to cycle your barrier, cycle your skills, and keep someone protected. This is good if you have a unit like Barunka in front, or just an element that is taking the brunt of the damage, something like Pilis. If you watch some of my Guild War attacks, you'll see I used this a few times. It's very strong. I don't think I use this much speed on in those attacks, as I prefer to go for damage instead and like less speed. Yeah, this is very viable as well, and something I have used in the past as well against the G-Res Setsuka, I guess Lady or something. Um, it's something like this. Although I'm not sure if I used Adamant on her. You can use Rise as well in that situation. But you see, this is a hybrid build where you're dropping speed and you're just tanking down. So you have the damage, you have ER, and you have your crit stats. Arguably low, um, but it will work. And the reason we can go such low speed is because if we have a team that does not die and we get hit, Imperial Illinev will just get combat readiness and she will take turns and she will cycle. So incredibly useful hero for Guild War. I mean, for RTA, I wouldn't know, but I imagine she's just as important. There's so much defense penetration heroes. It's so huge. And the biggest impact of this skill is against heroes who 100% penetrate. Because just, I think even if you have a hero that has like 900 armor, so basically, sorry, defense, so basically that's the base defense they can have. And against the Genesis Rest, that will be about 300 defense. So the difference between having 300 defense and 0 defense is about a 50% reduction in damage. It's huge. And then it slowly wears off. It's not as impactful after that, but most impactful against full defense penetration heroes, going from full damage to halving it, which is, yes, it's just, it's too much. Um, it also affects stuff like penetration set, and it does stack multiplicatively with other abilities. So if you have both Diana and her, which gives the penetration resistance buff, which is a 50% reduction, it will not be 80. It will multiply. So just off the top of my head, I'm not sure now, but it will be less than that. So let's say it's about yeah, I can't do math right now. It's going to be less than 80. Let's say just 76. I don't know if that's right. Maybe something like that. Um, but incredibly strong unit. One of the most important units to have for Guild War. By far, I think only outmatched by Lady of the Scales. And other than that, she's one of the most units right now. And if you have her and you aren't using her and you're not winning, then, well, maybe consider.